Director Denis Villeneuve's Dune movie came out on October 22nd, 2021. In the 2 and a bit years since then, from Disney's Star Wars, we've had The Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Andor and Ahsoka. All attempts at bringing the Star Wars world from our childhoods into a more adult sphere. But the truth is, whilst we've all enjoyed some of those shows, I'm looking at you in particular, Andor, even the best of them didn't have the thematic depth, skill of filmmaking and quality of writing that Villeneuve's Dune had. It's not surprising the film has some weight behind it. It's based off one of the best sci-fi books ever written, Frank Herbert's 1966 Hugo and Nebula award-winning novel of the same name. Apparently, adapting the book was a lifelong dream for Villeneuve, and it certainly paid off. The movie won no less than 6 Oscars, cinematography, score, visual effects and more, and went on to gross $400 million worldwide. With part 2 coming out in the next week or so, I thought it'd be worth going back and seeing whether the film earned all those awards. So, Dune tells the story of young Paul Atreides, played by Timotee Chalamet. Paul is the heir to House Atreides, a dynasty of the far future living on the planet Caladan. When the Emperor orders Paul's father, Duke Leto, played by Oscar Isaac, and all his people to take over the remote desert planet of Arrakis from their enemies, the brutal Harkonnen, he reluctantly agrees. Taking his family, including consort and mother of Paul, Lady Jessica, played by Rebecca Ferguson, House Atreides settles on Arrakis and begins to adapt to the harsh environment, trying to work out how to make money from its precious resource, an orange dust known as spice. Angry at losing access to this vital substance, Baron Harkonnen, played by Stellan Skarsgård, launches a surprise attack on House Atreides, leaving many dead and Paul and his mother on the run. Can they escape capture and get to safety with the mysterious Fremen race living on the planet? And is there more to Paul and his future on Arrakis than meets the eye? Some of the most popular stories of all time are popular in large part because of their worlds. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars. None of these would be as beloved as they are without their incredible world building. And you can add Dune to that list. Villeneuve's film takes place in an absolutely fascinating world full of fresh ideas, such as the shields that can only be penetrated by slowly moving weapons, the ancient Bene Gesserit sisterhood and their use of the voice, read Star Wars Force Hypnosis, and the precious spice on which so much of the story hinges. All of this creativity is down to the original book, of course, but Villeneuve and his team take care to show as much of it as they can on the screen without taking away from the flow of the narrative. Watch this one closely, as there's so much texture to every image, so much to look at, take in. It's deeply impressive and a testament to Villeneuve's love for the source material. Dune is a beautifully shot film too and looks gorgeous at times. The cinematography was originally supposed to have been done by the brilliant Roger Deakins, but was instead handled by Greg Fraser, the man behind The Batman and Rogue One. Absolutely nothing to worry about there, as his Oscar win for his work on Dune attests. You could take a still image at any point in this film and hang it on your wall, they're that good. The set and prop design is fantastic, with everything looking like it belongs. Apparently they spent a year on the design for the giant sandworm alone, and you can tell the same care was given to everything in the film. The CGI blends in perfectly so that you can hardly notice it, and thankfully after the video game backdrops of the recent Rebel Moon, the space scenes in Dune look realistic and natural. Speaking of natural, you can say the same thing about the movie's cast. Nobody puts a foot wrong in this one, not even Jason Momoa, who whilst not having the best acting chops in the world, is wonderfully playful as Paul's friend and ace pilot Duncan Idaho. Of the rest, Timotee Chalamet and Oscar Isaac are standouts. It's a big role for Chalamet over 2 movies, but he rises to the occasion perfectly in what's my favourite performance of his so far. Paul has some big moments, some emotional ones, but Chalamet pulls them off with the assurance of an actor twice his age. I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes in the second film. Oscar Isaac plays the Duke to a pitch-perfect tone too. He displays a kingly nature, fair but firm, inquisitive yet assured. He's completely believable in the role, and there's such warmth to his relationship with his son, played out over a few well-chosen, intimate scenes. The events that befall his character in the film would fall flat with the wrong person behind them, but Oscar Isaac lifts them up. He's a great actor all round, and I've yet to see the film he doesn't lift to some degree, even you, The Last Jedi. It's a bit of a cliche at this point to say that Hans Zimmer can score a film well, but his work on Dune might even be better than his incredible work on Interstellar. There's such variety in the music here, from grunting animal noises, harrowing screams to, oddly, bagpipes. At times it's even a little creepy, adding to the alien feel of Arrakis. Apparently, a few new musical instruments were created so that Zimmer could get the sounds he wanted for Dune. I don't know whose job that was, but they definitely work, and the soundtrack's a big part of what makes this movie special. The script is as tight as spandex on a superhero. Subtle moments throughout reveal character, subtle movements too. And none of it's obvious, nothing handed on a plate. We audiences like to work for our meaning, and Dune gives us that in spades. Exposition is always dramatised, spread out rather than dumped. A great example comes at the start when Paul is learning to fight with Gurney, his father's military leader. In that scene alone, we're introduced to the world's shields, weapons, the Harkonnen, Gurney, Paul's fighting skills, the characters' feelings about their enemies, and more. At no point is any of it dull. A few negatives hold Dune back from true greatness. I don't know whether many agree with me, but I've always found Villeneuve's films a little cold, a little distant, and this one's no different. It almost feels like you're watching a documentary of the action rather than feeling the characters' emotions yourselves. This might be something inherent in the way Villeneuve makes films, distant shots, stillness, lots of monotone images, but it does harm things a little. The other big weakness of Dune is its position as part one of a full story. What this means in practice is that the first half of this film is gripping as we get to know the characters, the world, see the Harkonnen attack. But once Paul and his mother are on the run, things slow down a lot. Villeneuve does his best to come up with a decent finale out of what would have been merely a midpoint of Frank Herbert's book, but the movie does peter out a little, there's no denying it. All nitpicking here though. The positives far outweigh the negatives with Dune. It's Denis Villeneuve's best film to my mind, a fantastic story based on a fantastic book with deep themes that bear further thought after you finish watching. It's not adult because it has killing in it or swear words, it's adult because it makes us look at our own world in a new way. Villeneuve described Dune as Star Wars for adults, and I think he's right. George Lucas took a lot from the book for his original trilogy back in the 70s and 80s. Modern day Disney, on the other hand, still has a lot to learn from a project like this. Let's hope, once the dust has settled on Dune Part 2, that they do. Anyway, nothing more to say, this is Movie Maverick signing out.